right, Fox Business Alert, Consumer Price Index, CPI, hit 3.4% in the month of April. That's not good. Up 0.3 month over month. It's going the wrong direction. Here with what it means is Shark Tank investor and O'Leary Ventures chair, Kevin O'Leary. Kevin, good morning to you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
All right. We know that inflation's got to be below 2% for the Fed to stop, to start lowering our interest rates. This is all going the wrong way.
It guarantees that, in my opinion, the Fed will not will not lower rates at all for the rest of this year. And that's not what you want if you're the incumbent. Politically, it looks like this happened because inflation data, you can be 20/20 in terms of looking backwards. We poured a lot of money in the economy during the pandemic, and that turned out to be the right thing to do to avoid a depression. But then we kept going. We probably put around $2 trillion too much in. Inflation Reduction Act did not reduce inflation. In fact, it's inflationary, as you can see by these numbers. This is a nasty report.
It is a nasty report, but the president, when he's out and about, he tries to put on a happy face. Here's a soundbite, I believe, from yesterday, where once again, he's got a whopper, and he says that inflation was 9% when he took office. Watch this.
How do households feel wealthy right now?
Over 60% of the people in America feel they're personally in good shape. They're personally in good shape. But they look out and they say the rest of the world's not in good shape. Other people aren't in good shape. I think inflation has gone slightly up. It was at 9% when I came in, and it's now down around 3%.
When he took office, it was 1.4%. It wasn't until almost summer of 2022 when it hit 9%, when gas, people had to decide, am I going to buy groceries or am I going to fill up my car?
Well, I don't think you can blame any politician for talking their book, but unfortunately, the numbers don't lie. Where this is manifesting itself in a problem for the current administration is inflation numbers around food, protein notably, gasoline, and housing. Those are bad metrics when you're at the voting poll.
Right.
And so I don't know what's going to happen the next 5 months, but you really want the Fed to cut rates. You want to talk a book about inflation going back to 2%. None of that's happening. These are not good numbers for the current administration, not at this time in the election cycle. These are nasty. There's no other way to describe them.
Okay, so that number came out 13 minutes ago. Also, about an hour ago, the Biden campaign said, hey, Donald Trump will debate you twice, once in June, once in September. What do you think of that?
I love it. I think the country is begging for policy. Look, we've been talking about the trials in New York, the real estate wars, and now the porn star wars. I get it. I understand all that. But if you're a New Yorker right now, you'd probably be asking yourself, is this the best way to spend our money? When everybody wants to understand going into an election, what's your policy on border security? What's your policy on interest rates? What's your policy on foreign affairs? All of these issues are left open, and inflation I want to hear more about. I got to have this information to make a decision as a voter. I don't have it. So let's stop the porn star wars. Let's take a break and let's get policy debates. I welcome them. Bring it on. Bring it on. Bring it on.
And Donald Trump himself has already said he's on as well. Kevin, thank you very much for joining us today from Austin.
Take care. Thank you.
All right. I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Well, Brian, great job down in Washington observing National Police Week. And our next story is just such a slap in the face to America's law enforcement. It's all about saluting our men and women in blue. Remember January 27th? We showed you this video on January 28th. Shocking on-camera beatdown of two police officers in Times Square who tried to break up a crowd. The guys, all migrants, kicking the cops in the head and the body, and then they ran away. Well, they eventually ID'd them, and now, according to the New York Post, 6 of the migrants have been charged. They've been offered plea deals. Rather than serving, get the full blast for beating up cops during National Police Week, they cop deals.
New York Post is reporting that 6 migrants connected with that attack in Times Square were offered plea deals, and then Daily Mail is saying 5 out of the 7. So once we get those numbers confirmed, we'll be able to report it. But they're all from Venezuela, and actually one of them was arrested again while out on bail for larceny, petty larceny. For
look at this guy.
I read for shoplifting Macy's.
Yeah,
Macy's.
down at Herald
So
Square.
I guess look,
Last Friday.
I'm not from the city. I guess I don't understand why they couldn't have a conversation with ICE, get the federal charges going. And I'm not just talking about Manhattan, but all the bureaus. I don't understand how you're prosecuting the former president and putting him on trial to up to 40 years in prison. You have people that actually assault cops, and they get out for like,
That
they
would
only
be
serve 6 months.
That would be common sense,
it's just, Dexter Taylor, the guy in Brooklyn, who's a gun hobbyist who collects guns yesterday, was sentenced to 10 years.
Right.
A nerd who just collects guns.
Right.
But someone that assaults a cop,
And
Lauren,
get off, and flipping off America.
Two of these people have ICE detainers on them. The question is whether or not the city will turn them over.
And the answer is no. And it always seems to be no. But the good news is Alan Weissenberg's off the streets. And that's why they're safer.
Right.
The CFO, he's 76 years
Trump.
old. Second stint at Rikers. But their big goal is to empty that prison.
Yeah.
You know that, right? So they want to empty Rikers by not putting any new people in and letting other people out early. What could go wrong?
it's absurd.
Ukraine says its troops have had to retreat from several villages in the Kharkiv region because of continued pressure from Russian forces who are establishing positions inside the northeast Ukrainian town of Vovchansk. There's intense fighting, and the capture of the town would mark the most significant gain for Russia since it launched an incursion on Friday. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has cancelled all his foreign trips until further notice. More now from our correspondent in Kyiv, James Waterhouse, on the reasons behind the cancellations.
All that we're hearing from the Spanish side, Sarah, is that it is because of internal events inside Ukraine. So not much in the way of detail on that statement, but I guess most of us can fill the gaps on what that means. This is a full-scale invasion more than 2.5 years on now, and it is going far from Ukraine's way as Ukrainian forces struggle to contain this northeastern incursion by Russian troops across the border. Now, President Zelensky, he's fairly relaxed about travelling abroad. He's grown in confidence in that sense. He's keen to appear at summits, not just in Europe, not just in the US on favourable territory with Western allies, but he's also keen to engage with the Middle East as well as the African continent. So it is a possible reflection of just how perilous a period this is for Ukraine, with the front line growing in size and Ukrainian troops being further stretched.
And of course, an important visit as well over the last couple of days with the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. What's been the key message that he's brought from the US?
More help is coming. Don't worry, we're behind you. Putin must fail, I think, is the messaging we've heard over and over. I mean, Antony Blinken is on the second day of an official visit where you can be sure high on the agenda is the delay to this multi-billion-dollar package of ammunition and weaponry. Now, we're told some of the Ukrainian forces have it. But what we're hearing from commanders in the northeast is that they are having to move to more advantageous positions. That is the wording. We don't yet know whether it's a withdrawal or retreat, but it's clear they are struggling to contain this Russian attack in the face of constant ground attacks and artillery fire. Now, there are real concerns that Russia is planning another attack further north into the Sumy region, where troops are gathering there. And it's interesting. I think there are questions over Ukraine's ability to prevent this, because it's long been known that Russia has been gathering troops. But Kyiv is reluctantly agreeing with Western allies to not use the missiles it provides on targets inside Russia, only on occupied territory inside Ukraine. That is a source of deep frustration for ministers here, and it might be a reason why they are seemingly unable to prevent these incursions from taking place.
Tonight, an urgent manhunt underway in France for a notorious drug kingpin and the armed gunman who broke him out of police custody. The deadly ambush at a toll booth captured on surveillance video, a black SUV smashing into a police van conducting a high-profile prisoner transport. The Paris prosecutor's office naming the prisoner as 30-year-old Mohamed Amra, convicted of burglary and under investigation in a fatal kidnapping case. French media say he's known as the Fly or La Mouche. The assailant's SUV appearing to pin the prison van in, gunmen jumping out, as terrified bystanders in nearby buses take cover. Others catching glimpses of the chaos. The gunmen pulling Amra out as they make their escape, an explosion in front of that black SUV. Authorities say 2 officers were killed and 3 more injured. The attack rattling France, which has deployed hundreds of officers to search for the fugitives.
Tout. Je dis bien tout.
French Justice Minister Eric Dupond-Moretti saying everything, and I am saying everything, will be put in place to hunt down the perpetrators of this revolting crime. It's the first death in France's prison service since 1992, the Justice Ministry says. Parliament paying respects to the dead and injured with a moment of silence. From France's Prime Minister, a promise of justice at any cost.
Aucun moyen.
He says, we are hunting them down. We will find them. And I tell you, they will pay.
And we are learning more tonight about the prison officers who were killed in this incident. French police say one of them was a 52-year-old who had served in the French prison service for more than 15 years.